Day 10 of Christmas Stories to Get You Till Christmas is Rodney Reindeer, the big story of Santa's littlest helper. Way up in the North Pole, all the reindeer were excited. After all, it was the best day of the year to be a reindeer. It was Christmas Eve. And while all the grown-up reindeer were preparing for Santa's flight, all the little reindeers were competing in the Christmas games. There was the wreath toss, the snowball slingshot, and everybody's favorite, the six-legged race. The games were North Pole tradition, and every reindeer joined in. And every Marley. Well, every little reindeer except for one, Rodney. While the other little reindeer were busy tossing, shooting snowballs, racing, and playing, Rodney made his way to Santa's stables, where Santa's sleigh reindeer were getting ready for the big trip. "Hi, Dancer. Can I help you get ready for Christmas?" Rodney asked. "Sorry, Rodney. You're just too little. Why don't you go outside and play?" Thought Rodney. He did like playing games. But what he really wanted was to help everyone get ready for Christmas. It was his favorite day of the year. "I don't want to play," Rodney said. "I want to help." "Okay, Rodney," said Dasher, looking dashing as usual. "You can polish the jingle bells of our harnesses. That should keep you busy for a while." So Rodney worked very hard, polishing the bell until he could see his reflection in it. While he worked, he imagined he was one of Santa's sleigh reindeer with his own harness of shiny, jingly bells. "All done," Rodney said with pride. "What else can I do?" "Why don't you go see Santa's elves?" asked Cupid, as she put on her makeup. "We have to get ready to fly." So Rodney went to Santa's workshop. Everywhere he looked, there was something to see. Mountains of toys, huge sheets of wrapping paper, giant spools of ribbon, and enormous bags overflowing with presents. All the elves were busy, busy, busy. Surely they could use some help. Rodney tapped Pickles the elf on the shoulder. He looked like he was in charge. "Psst, Pickles, can I help?" "Ah, you scared me, Rodney. And no, you're too little. But we're too busy. Why haven't you joined the reindeer games?" "Well, I don't want to play games," Rodney said sadly. "I want to help." Okay, Pickles said, "but be careful. An elf's work is very serious business. If any of these presents get mixed up, there's going to be some very sad boys and girls on Christmas morning." So Rodney worked very carefully beside Santa's elves. He taped and he tied, and he watched every single present made its way down the long assembly line into the exact right bag. When all the gifts were wrapped and bagged, Rodney was jumping with excitement. "We're done. What else can I do?" But the elves were exhausted. "Why don't you go see if Mrs. Claus needs help with the sleigh?" asked a very tired Pickles. "We need a break." So Rodney went to Santa's garage where the North Pole penguins were just starting to load the presents into the sleigh. Rodney had never been this close to Santa's sleigh before. It was beautiful. "Mrs. Claus, ma'am," he said nervously. May I help, please?" "Well, I'm so sorry, Rodney, but you're too little to lift such heavy bags. Plus, we're getting awfully windy and icy out here. Why don't you go back inside the workshop and get warm?" "But I really want to help," Rodney pleaded. "All right, now, Rodney, let's see. Santa's already made his list and checked it twice, but why don't you check it a third time? Make sure every child's present is in the right bag, headed for the right place." Mrs. Claus handed Rodney Santa's official list. This was serious business. So present by present and bag by bag, Rodney checked and checked until he had checked off every name on Santa's list. When he was finally done, Rodney handed the list back to Mrs. Claus. "What else can I do?" he said eagerly. "Well, the presents have all been loaded," Mrs. Claus replied. "That means it's nearly time for takeoff. Now, quick, Rodney, run and see." At the same time every year, Santa's 8 reindeer pull his sleigh, piled high with toys, all the way from his garage down the entire length of Main Street to the very edge of town, where it takes off for its flight around the world. Rodney watched and waited until Santa's reindeer appeared, two at a time with their harnesses of jingling, shiny bells. And then there was Santa. And the frosty wind blew his bristly white beard and made his plump cheeks as rosy as peppermint candies. Then, all of a sudden, over the cheers of the crowd came a great kerchunk. Santa's sleigh struck a piece of ice on the path. The big bags of presents bounced out of the sleigh, split open, and scattered boxes and bows all over the snowy ground. Santa's list flew out of his pocket, swirled up in the wind, and flew up, 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 and away. Main Street grew very quiet. The reindeer stood still as statues. The elves bit their fingernails. The penguins hid their eyes. Santa looked at Mrs. Claus, and Mrs. Claus looked at Santa. "Oh no," she cried, "what a mess! Without your list, how will you know what presents go where? All those little boys and girls will be so disappointed if they don't get the gifts they asked for, and they've been good all year long." Just then, a little cheerful voice came from a very silent crowd. "Mrs. Claus, Santa, I can help." "No, Rodney, you can't help," said Mrs. Claus. "Not this time." "But I can," he said, "because I know where the presents go. I helped the elves wrap every one. I sorted them into the bags. I triple-checked Santa's list, and I remember. This one's for Sarah in Pleasanton. It's a book. That's for Peter in Riverdale, and that is a red race car." "Well, Rodney, it looks like you worked very hard today," Santa chuckled. "Would you like to help me one more time?" Before Rodney could even nod his head, Santa scooped him up into the sleigh, and the reindeer began to trot, then gallop, and then race with all their might down Main Street. Then suddenly, magically, the ground disappeared below them. Rodney was high above town. Santa's stables, workshop, and garage were tiny specks in a field of snow, and Rodney was flying. Together they flew from roof to roof, neighborhood to neighborhood, country to country. Thanks to all his hard work that day, Rodney was able to tell Santa exactly where to go. With Rodney's help, Santa delivered Mason's model train, Brian's art set, Riley's roller skates, Joshua's fishing pole, and thousands more. He went down every chimney of every house until every present from every bag was delivered. "That's it, Santa," Rodney shouted. "We're finished. We did it." "Actually, there's one more present," said Santa with a wink. He reached into his big gloved hand into a fuzzy coat pocket and pulled out a little box with a big green bow. And inside there was a shiny silver jingle bell, just like the one Santa's sleigh reindeer wore. "It's for you, Rodney, my littlest helper."